Some games become legendary because they change the industry. Others become memorable because players can still see the great idea hiding beneath all the limitations at the time. I think that's where Robocop, or in this case Robocop 3, Remake could really surprise a lot of people. The original game had plenty of ambition, borrowing from the movie with its mix of shooting, the side-scrolling action, futuristic crime fighting. Hardware at the time simply couldn't deliver everything that vision demanded, but looking back now it's easy to imagine how much more exciting that same concept could become with modern technology while staying true to what made Robocop so unique. So first of all, as always, there's no official Robocop 3 remake in development news or whatever. The recent success of Robocop Rogue City proved there's still a strong audience for the character, and that has naturally sparked a lot of conversations about revisiting older Robocop games. But however, nothing has been announced regarding a remake of Robocop 3 or any other Robocop for that matter. For now, it's just simply an idea that many longtime fans would love to see become reality. And if it ever happens, the biggest priority shouldn't be making Robocop action-oriented, it should be making him feel powerful. See, walking through the streets should immediately almost remind players they're controlling a machine that's built to withstand almost anything. Every step carries weight, bullets bounce off the armor while damaged cars, broken walls, and shattered windows show the aftermath of every confrontation when there's a fight. Robocop doesn't need flashy acrobatics to look intimidating. His calm, unstoppable presence has always been far more impressive than speed alone. Instead of falling like a collection of disconnected levels, I'm talking about the fact that Detroit itself deserves to become one of the remake's greatest strengths. The city should feel like a place struggling to survive. Wealthy corporate districts standing only a few miles away from abandoned factories, neglected neighborhoods and streets controlled by organized crime, where during the day traffic fills the roads with workers hurry between office buildings. At night then, the atmosphere changes completely. Empty intersections, flashing police lights, distant helicopters all create the feeling that danger could appear around every corner without warning. That also creates opportunities for much deeper police work. Shooting criminals has always been part of Robocop, but investigations quietly played an important role as well. A future game could naturally expand that side of the experience by allowing players to examine crime scenes, analyze security footage, question witnesses, reconstruct events through advanced forensic technology, and eventually slowly uncovering larger conspiracies hiding behind, ordinary simple little cases. Those investigations shouldn't interrupt the action, they should make every confrontation feel even more meaningful because players understand exactly what's at stake before the bullets start flying. Combat, of course, remains probably one of the biggest attractions, but it doesn't really need to become faster, it just needs to become smarter. Robocop isn't supposed to dodge bullets in the battlefield like a superhero. He's a walking tank whose greatest advantage comes from precision, durability, and some overwhelming firepower. Enemies should understand that charging directly at him is basically suicide, forcing them to rely on ambushes, explosives, heavy weapons, drones, hacking equipments, and coordinated tactics. Every firefighting fight becomes a battle of positioning rather than simple reflexes, making victories feel earned without sacrificing the character's identity. See, technology offers another exciting direction. Robocop's advanced systems have always been one of his defining features. Modern hardware, though, could finally bring them to life in some much greater details. Thermal vision stuff, facial recognition technologies, environmental scanning powers, real-time crime databases that constantly update. And rather than turning those systems into distracting menus per se, they should feel like natural extensions of Robocop himself, allowing players to solve problems in ways that ordinary officers simply just can't. The criminal organization deserves almost equal attention. Detroit shouldn't be filled with interchangeable gangs wearing different colors and stuff. Every faction should have its own leadership, motivation, technology, methods of operating. Some rely on cybergenetic enhancements, others on illegal weapon manufacturing. That variety, in fact, creates different mission styles while reinforcing the political themes that have always been part of the Robocop universe. In fact, one thing the films understood perfectly was balancing action with satire. Robocop has never been purely serious crime fiction. Corporate greed, media sensationalism, aggressive advertising, privatized law enforcement has always been presented with some dark humor behind them in this franchise. Another game shouldn't ignore that side of the franchise. Obviously, combat should stay grounded because that's always been part of Robocop's identity. The Auto 9 pistol should remain one of the most satisfying weapons in the game. Every shot feels deliberate, accurate, more powerful without needing exaggerated visual effects. Criminals react differently depending on where they hit. Environments slowly breaking apart during longer firefights per se, and players naturally use cover without turning the game into some fast military shooting game. Robocop wins because it's patient, because it's precise and almost impossible to intimidate. Different enemies then should encourage different tactics for this matter. Street gangs rely on numbers and predictable behavior, forcing players to carefully manage every encounter instead of rushing forward. And not every mission should begin with a shootout. Sometimes the job involves arriving after the crime has already happened. Robocop examines evidence, reviews security footage, interviews witnesses, and slowly pieces together what really took place before deciding where to go next. Those quieter moments create a natural rhythm between the larger action sequence while making players feel like an actual police officer instead of someone who only solves problems with gunfire. The story, of course, could also benefit from spending more time on people that live in Detroit. Ordinary citizens become more background characters, shop owners recognize Robocop after repeated visits or whatever, police officers discuss ongoing investigations. Think about it. The city feels worth saving, for that matter, because the people inside it matter and feel believable. One area that modern technology could improve dramatically, however, is just basically AI. Criminals don't simply stand in the open waiting to be arrested. Some surrender immediately once they realize escaping is impossible. Others panic, grab hostages, or attempt desperate escape plans. Police officers secure crime scenes. Every situation develops differently because everyone reacts according to what's happening instead of following the same predictable behavior every time as a gameplay mechanic. Perhaps the biggest opportunity is just remembering what makes Robocop different from almost every other action hero. He isn't trying to become a legend, he isn't chasing revenge, he's simply doing his job as honestly as he can inside a city where corruption reaches almost every level of society. That grounded approach has always separated Robocop from the most, and a remake should preserve that feeling above everything else. Maybe that's why people still enjoy talking about it today. The technology is fascinating, the action is exciting, but underneath all of it is a story about justice, about humanity, and trying to do the right thing in a world that often makes you feel impossible. If a Robocop 3 remake ever becomes reality, it shouldn't focus on becoming the biggest action game on the market. It should focus on becoming the definitive Robocop experience. Because sometimes the strongest heroes are the ones who never need to tell everyone how powerful they are. They simply walk forward, protect the innocent, and let their actions speak for themselves.